Greetings, everyone. This is Jeff Wilkerson, Professor of Physics at Luther College, bringing you the next of our What to Look For in the Night Sky series. We're talking about the week of March 27th, 2023. This time around, I hope you've had a great week since the last time we've had a chance to talk about what we might see in the night sky. At that time, a week ago, I'm sure you remember, we talked about beautiful open star clusters in Auriga, looking toward the anti-center of the galaxy. M35, M36, M37, and M38. This week we'll add M35. We mentioned it last week, I think. It's across the border. We were looking at Auriga. It's across the border in Gemini. And so M35 is a beautiful open star cluster. It's a great one for a small telescope. You got a small telescope, go out and see if you can find it there in Gemini. And if you don't have a small telescope, you have a pair of binoculars, you probably can see the glow, the haze in binoculars. You might be able to resolve a few stars, and you might see it as a fuzzy patch otherwise. And the way to find it right now is Mars is right on top of it. Okay? So Mars is tracking from Taurus, where it's been for a while, into Gemini. And Mars is within about 1.5 degrees of M35. Mars, you go out, it's dark. It's just gotten dark, you're looking to the south, and you see the bright orange Mars in that direction. There's a bright orange Aldebaran back this way. So Mars is to the east of Aldebaran, of the bright orange objects that you're looking at. But Mars, this week, this is a great thing. If you've got a clear sky every night this week, this is a fantastic thing to track, because Mars is going to move from just to the west of M35 to just to the east of M35 as the week progresses. And it stays within, the whole week it stays within 2 degrees of the cluster, and within 1.5 degrees, largely, 1.5 to 2 degrees north of the cluster, so it's passing by above the cluster. You get your binoculars out, you find Mars, and you'll see the fuzzy patch of the cluster below there, and you can watch Mars move each day as you move across there. Now, what's going on early in the week, the moon is right there too. So if you're out on Monday, now the moon's going to be filling out and making M35 a little harder to see in binoculars as the week goes on. On Monday, the 27th, the moon's only about 40% full. It's pretty close, so it'll wash it out some, but it's not as full as it will be later in the week, so it's a decent chance to try this on Monday. So the moon will be about 6 degrees above and to the east of Mars on Monday evening, the 27th. By the time you get to the 28th, the moon will have moved to about 6 degrees west of Mars, and so east of Mars. My goodness. We're going from west to east, of course. That's what this is all about this week. You'd think I'd remember it, but yeah. So the moon is going to go from 6 degrees west of Mars on the 27th to 6 degrees east of Mars on the 28th. So that'll help you find this region of the sky too, and it'll fill out to about 50% full. So starting to wash this out. Now the moon will fill out as the week goes on and continue to go this direction. And as it fills out, it'll wash things out in the sky, but it's getting further away from M35. So you still have a chance to see some of the brighter stars in M35 anyway. You can start to get a sense of this region. But what we want to talk about here a little bit is we talk about Mars being in prograde motion right now. And that means the planets, the word planet, right, it's from the Greek word that means wanderer, that the planet is wandering, the planets wander against the background stars. They move. And most of the time, they move toward the east, like we're talking about here today. And the reason for that is, we think about if the solar nebula, the cloud from which the solar system was born, was spinning very slowly. As it collapsed, it spins up faster and faster. Think about an ice skater pulling their arms in like this. You get that mass closer to the rotational axis. The moment of inertia goes down, and the conservation of angular momentum tells us that cloud speeds up. So everything speeds up. Everything spins up as this cloud collapses, but everything's going in the same direction. So the planets tend to spin in the same direction. Venus spins backwards, okay? And so we have to think about, why is that? We have to come up with models. It gives us something to do, right? And so everything's spinning in the same direction, everything's orbiting in the same direction, and so everything's moving in the same direction. So if you have the sun here, and you have the planets around the sun, what happens is you've got Earth and it's going this direction, let's say, and everything else is going this direction, and everything's going this direction. There's Mars, and there's Jupiter and Saturn, and everything's going this direction. So most of the time, we see stuff moving that way against the background stars. That's going to be to the east. And so as we see Mars moving a couple of degrees to the east relative to cluster M35, it's a great week to check that out. Now the moon is part of that system too, so the moon tracks to the east. And so the moon is moving that direction around the Earth. And we see it moving to the east as well against the background stars. Now, at this point right here, where the Earth is catching up and passing Mars, Mars can look like it's going backwards for a little bit, and we call that retrograde motion. So this is an idea of saying this is how we started to model what the solar system really was to try to understand how these planets move backwards against the background stars. You've got stars that look like this. Here's your stars in here, and you'll see Mars suddenly turn around and go backward for a while and then go forward, and the other planets do that too. And so we call that retrograde motion, westerly motion, and prograde motion to the east. And so we see Mars in prograde motion this week. We see the moon moving to the east as well. Everything's moving to the east out there. Everything's great. Everything's doing what we kind of expect. Now, if we look just after sunset, Venus, I've had a few clear nights here. We haven't had a lot of clear nights this spring, but this week, I've had a few clear nights since I last talked with you. And Venus is just beautiful. Venus is high in the evening sky looking west and bright. So in the glow of the sunset, you look west and Venus is way up there and bright. So you say, well, okay, that's it. It looks like a plane or a helicopter or something when you first see it. And you think, yeah, that's Venus, is that big bright object. And Venus is also in prograde motion. It's also moving to the east against the background stars. And what you can see this week, if you've got your binoculars or your small telescope out again, is Venus on the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st. We're talking about Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So on the 29th, 30th, and 31st, Wednesday to Friday, you can watch Venus stay within about 1.5 degrees to 2 degrees again of Uranus as it tracks across the top. So it's moving faster, it's closer to us, it's moving faster against the background stars, and Uranus is moving against the background stars too. Most of Uranus's apparent motion is actually our motion, where we're orbiting, but nonetheless, these are all moving against the background stars. Venus is just doing much more rapidly than Uranus, and it's passing Uranus right now in the sky. And this whole thing's within 2 degrees, and your binoculars, you should be able to see Uranus as it's going to be the brightest object probably in the binoculars other than Venus. And so this is a good chance for you to get out and observe Uranus this week, is to see Venus. It'll be below Venus, it'll be south of Venus, and Venus will move from the 29th to the 31st. Venus will move from the west of Uranus to the east of Uranus. And if you get a chance to observe all 3 of those nights, that's something great to see. So it's in prograde motion too. Everything's good. We could quit right there. But do we quit? No, we always bring you extra. That's what we're going to do, is we're going to bring you extra this week, thinking about the rotation. Well, that was extra. It's all extra, right? When we're thinking about things orbiting and things rotating and all of this stuff going on in the solar system, thinking about these motions. But I want you to keep watching Venus. And Venus, this region of M35 where Gemini meets Taurus, where Mars is sliding past there, Mars is just going to keep going. Mars is going to vacate this region over the next few weeks. It's just going to blow past here and be gone. Okay? But this whole region slips toward the sun. As we orbit, the sun gets closer and closer and closer to Gemini and Taurus in the sky, and it's going to get to be swallowed up by the sun here before too terribly long. But we got a while before that happens, a good little while. And so this spring, in the summer, that's going to happen. But Venus just keeps tracking this direction against the background stars as the whole region's sliding toward the sun. May 9th. It seems like it's out there a long ways. It's not that far out there, right? 5 or 6 weeks from now, what's going to happen is May 9th, Venus will replace Mars and be right here, right around the 9th of May. Venus is going to be right here by M35, and you'll be able to see M35 and Venus in the same binocular field of view, just like you're seeing Mars there right now. In fact, Venus is moving so quickly, it's closing down on Mars, and right up into June, it's going to keep closing that gap on Mars, and you're going to see Venus and Mars together in the sky, although sinking toward the evening sun. You're going to see them there together as we approach June. And you think, wow, it's going to be great. They're going to go right up and hit each other. But Venus then goes into retrograde motion. Venus catches up and passes us. and Venus starts to slide back the other direction. It starts to separate from Mars. So that's going to be something fun for us to watch over the next several weeks, the next couple of months, is Venus tracking to the point in the sky against the background stars where Mars is right now, and then Venus actually closing that gap on Mars significantly before it stops and heads back into retrograde motion and pulls away from Mars. So that's what we got for you this week and for the several weeks ahead. Hope you have some clear skies. Hope you have a chance to get out and observe this. It should be a good week. And as always, thanks for watching, everybody.